This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Brewers Outlet, and Purdy Insurance. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Shikellamy, Southern Columbia tonight. The chief says he's ready. That makes one of them. I'm kind of ready. Oh, no. Oh. Brutal. I mean, I got everything printed out. I know who's playing. I got to give you credit. You've really grown up over time. This opening half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. 6 great flavors of slushies, ready-to-drink cocktails. High Noon, Jack Daniels, Crown Royal. And the pickle bar led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none.
Love the pickles.
All the Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. All right, so your game tonight. Shikelamy's come a long, long way. They've come a long way. I give them a lot of credit because you feel like tonight is a competitive game at home with a shot.
Yeah, I really do. Now, if you look at what Southern did to Bloomsburg last week,
other years,
different story.
No shot. Other years, no shot. I mean, no offense. No, seriously.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Okay, other years,
I'm
there
laughing.
was no shot. I mean, I apologize to all the wonderful Shikellamy fans and blah, 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 blah. Okay. But, other years, you didn't have a shot.
No, I don't disagree. They have the offense that can make big plays and hit big plays when they need them. And if they can do that on a regular basis and make a couple of stops along the way, this could be a lot closer than some people feel it could be.
No, I think they're playing to win it.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. This is a team that desperately wants to be 6-4 right now and feels as though they left last week slip between their fingers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens.
And they really kind of feel as though the Bloom game kind of slipped away, too. They played a very stellar defensive second half. And then, you have 2 big turnovers that became instant scores in the Danville game, and that became the difference in the ball game.
Yeah. Well, now you get a shot.
I think the cool thing, though, is that a record that is almost 30 years standing finally got broken last week with Brody Rabick now being the leading passer yardage-wise and Thomas Pollock the leading receiver yardage-wise. And it broke 2 records from 2 guys that have gone into Shikellamy history many times in Mark Bartosik at wide receiver and Mike Bowman at quarterback. That was one of the first years that I started doing games, so it was kind of fun to watch those guys.
It's good.
But these two, Brody and Thomas have really found a way to know where each other is. And you could see that how many years they've been playing football together, and it's starting to pay off. The other thing, too, is this defense, we joke about it with Mike Hoover, the head coach, all the time. It was about 2 years ago we put together the average starting age was 13.8 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For his defense. And when we started the year this year, I said, that these guys have come up. They've had a lot of experience at the varsity level. He goes, yeah, now they're driving to practice.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Now they're driving to practice. There you go. Very nice. Wow. So that's tonight. So I need to get your take on the NBA gambling scandal, since you are known in the building as Suit the Greek.
I was going to go with the Kenny Rogers of gambling, but, you know.
No. No. Somebody who has met Kenny Rogers, that's an insult to Kenny Rogers.
That's all right. I don't know when to fold him anyway.
We can all tell. You also don't tip. All right, so
this is the nightmare that we all thought it would be about 4 or 5 years ago when this all conversation started about betting and legalizing it. This is the nightmare that we figured was going to happen at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
the NCAA better be looking at this really, really close. I mean, everything here they better be looking at really close.
Remember, the NCAA, starting on November 1st, is going to loosen the string.
Exactly.
On November 1, on the ability to make wagers. Uh-oh. What could possibly go wrong?
I found the timing of this very ironic with the NCAA situation.
No, I didn't. To be honest with you, I didn't at all. This investigation began. This is why it always cracks me up about this, right? You know, people start to read in too much, and they start to get their politics in there and so forth. It's like, guys, settle down. Okay, this started in 2023. Okay. Over here, quick show of hands. Who was the president in 2023? Okay. You just have agents that, the FBI is not 30 people in a room going, okay, how we allocate the 30 people today. It's a gigantic organization. They can investigate multiple things at once.
Well, my point was not that I thought it was ironic that they picked this particular moment to bring it across. I mean the ironic timing of it, with the NCAA now loosening the rules, and now we have this, which is something that we all think will happen in the NCAA as well.
Well, I mean, you worry about it. It is not as if it has not been brought up. I can tell you right now, it's been brought up to the football team. I was there when it was brought up. So it's been brought up. So it's not as if coaches are not telling their athletes, hey, the news is out there, and guess what? Okay, this can't happen. It's been brought up. Every single coach in the country is scared to death of an Iowa State situation. We're 14 athletes? Now, the wagers weren't big, but it doesn't matter whether the wagers were big or not. The fact they did it. You know, and a couple of them were betting on their team. Like, really?
And see, I see this as two separate things. There's the X-ray table and the marked cards. That's something totally different to me.
So in other words, you feel like you're cheated.
No, I'm not a poker player by any means. I can't.
Not with your poker face.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't have a poker face for it. I have too many tells. But that's something to me that's not the same thing.
Oh, my God, I got 3 aces. I fold.
I think the problem is when they deal out and I'm looking at and then they get you have the draw and it becomes 3 aces and you go, woo! I think that's probably the tell that gives it away.
I think I'll fold.
But this is two separate issues. I mean, that aside, that's a different problem. The one that I think is the bigger problem for the NBA is the actual game being altered.
Well, look, what makes sports fun and has people drawn to it is, number one, the games have to have integrity. If they don't have integrity, then people are going to stop watching. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They're going to stop watching. If they don't think the games have integrity, they're not going to watch. Crazy.
Well, now you've really brought out the, wow, that game's rigged comment, and now it can be legitimate.
Sure, it could be.
I mean, before we kind of all said that in tongue-in-cheek, but I don't think it's tongue-in-cheek anymore.
Yeah, I know. So,
but I could see, coaches really getting nervous about this. When a player comes up to you and says, I'm not so sure. I think you talked about this yesterday. I'm not so sure. That ankle doesn't feel real good right now. It's like, okay.
Well, again,
you can't make him play.
No. And
that's a whole other issue.
It's one of the great fallacies in sports that has come up through movies and so forth over time. Well, the coach forced him to play. The coach forced the hand of the medical staff to get him ready. It's not how it works. I'm there. It's not how it works. No. The coaches are at the mercy of what the trainer and doctors tell them, and then the trainers and doctors are at the mercy of the player saying whether they can go. I mean, the player may have extremely unimpressive x-rays and says, I feel a twinge. Can't go. Can't go. Simple as that. And that's the part where, that's the part that people don't. I've never been. I've tried to make that point over and over again over the years, and you've got a group out there that just cannot grasp it. They can't grasp it, and it's a fact. They sit there. I mean, the coach 9 times out of 10, right? They feel helpless. Other times the other 1 out of 10, they just accept it. So if a guy pulls himself from a game, as is alleged with Terry Rozier, that he pulled himself in the game and said his foot hurt, the coach just looks around going, okay, I guess he can't go. That's a problem.
I think another big problem, and I think they were talking about it earlier today on the Dan Patrick Show, is this is a major black eye on the NBA who doesn't really need it right now.
Right, and then there are people who are saying, well, they went after him because it's the NBA. They don't like this administration. This investigation started with the previous administration. It's carried over. What do you think? They just started the investigation January 21st? Are you kidding me? These are the same agents that have been working on this for a long time. It takes a long time, especially when you're talking about what's interesting to me is, was the poker part first and then opened the door to the NBA, or was the NBA part that then opened the door to the poker part?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've heard that or not. Which came first?
I don't think they would say. Okay? I don't think they would say. But I'm wondering if they were looking into the poker part of it, because you are talking about 4 of the top 5 alleged crime families in New York. So darn well they'd be looked at anyway. And along the way, if they're like, well, wait, they're using NBA stars to be involved in this? Okay. And all of a sudden, then all of a sudden the door opens like, oh, wait a minute, there's more to it than we thought. Sometimes that happens.
Before they kind of separated the two type of investigations and it was all kind of lumped together, the first thing that popped into my head when they were talking about crime families being involved and the mob and all this, you know what popped into my head was 8 Men Out.
Well, sure.
I mean, it's not related. I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's like, didn't we learn anything from that situation in Major League Baseball? And here we are over 100 years later with the same problem.
Sure. Now you got this. 3 former Eastern Michigan players, basketball players, are refusing to participate in a betting probe. Deshaun Nelson, Jalen Terry, and Jalen Billingsley, they're no longer with the program, had their phones imaged January 29th as part of an NCAA investigation that triggered by suspicious betting on Eastern Michigan's game against Central Michigan. Refusing to participate in investigations can result in permanent loss of eligibility. Well, what the hell do they care? They don't have any left. Oh, we're going to make sure you never play college basketball again. Well, no offense, but we can't. So the answer is no.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right now, the NCAA is investigating 13 athletes at 6 schools for alleged gambling violations, including the 3 former Eastern Michigan players. But again, that would be my question. I think I would not get an answer. But what led to the other? Because if you look carefully, Chauncey Billups is, of course, being charged in the poker case, right? But if you look at unnamed individual number 8 in the NBA case, the resume of individual number 8 in the NBA case matches up almost line for line with Chauncey Billups.
Yeah, I think they talked about that this morning, too.
Right. Yeah. So
it was a little suspicious there.
I'm just saying, though, but I'm saying there's your crossover right there.
Well, and that's where it really gets from bad to not worse, but ugly for the NBA. And at some point, the commissioner's going to have to say something. He can't sit back. I mean, I know he's trying to sit back right now and wait till a little bit more information comes out, a little bit more information. But at some point, he's going to have to say something.
Yeah. Well, he's in a bad spot. Let's start with that.
No question.
Now, what gets me is that the NBA investigated Rozier and cleared him. Like, okay. Now I realize that the people at the Federal Bureau of Investigation have exponentially more sources to tap into.
I would think.
Now, the NBA, for example, and NBA, NFL, they do hire, a lot of times, former agents that do know how to do these things. But it's the NBA already has a couple of image issues to begin with. You know, people saying, and I'm talking about generalizations, well, you just want to watch the last 5 minutes of the game. And then they'll see a call and they'll say, oh, you know, it's obviously they want to win. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. They already have that image. You don't get that feeling watching an NHL game. And keep in mind, Major League Baseball has an issue. Right now, Clase and Ortiz with the Cleveland Guardians didn't pitch the last 7 weeks of the season. Because, again, prop bets. And what bothers me about prop bets is this. I guess you can make a prop bet in the middle of a game.
Yeah. Yeah, you can.
Why?
Well, and what they call in-game betting is also the next situation that I think is going to get looked at, because you can bet on whether the next pitch is going to be a ball or a strike. Will it be above 85? Will it be below 85? You know, is the next pitch going to be a hit, or is it going to be put in play, or just in an unbelievable amount of options you have on every pitch in baseball.
See, I have zero interest in this, like none. So I don't, to be honest with you, I don't get it. But some people feel they need the action to make the game more interesting to them. But I don't get it. Right, Gregg Murphy, next half hour, we talk about the World Series. Yes, both Clayton Kershaw and Bo Bichette, they announced today the rosters. They're both on their respective rosters. You're on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Scared of new car prices? Then you haven't been to Sunbury Motors Kia. Sunbury Motors Kia takes the scariness out of new car shopping. Take as much as $5,000 off on a 2025 Kia Sorento EX all-wheel drive. Or choose $2,000 off and 0% financing for 48 months or 0.99% APR for 60 months. Sorento start at just under $35,000. Take up to $2,000 in discounts on the 2025 Kia Niro with hybrid models that get up to 54 mpg and don't even require a charging cable. Drive away in a 2025 Kia Niro EV wins for just $278 a month for a 2-year, 10,000-mile lease with zero. You heard right, zero out of pocket. Plus, during the month of October, Sunbury Motors Kia will be donating $25 per new vehicle to the PA Breast Cancer Coalition. Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip in Hummel's Wharf. For details, see dealer or go to kia.com.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, this half hour brought to you by our good friends at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, light, business, boat, motorcycle, RV, and Medicare. Medicare open enrollment period is underway now. You need advice? Turn to Purdy Insurance. They always want to make sure that you are insured and do everything they can to save you money because customer service means everything to them. But the great people at Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury, go to purdyinsurance.com. Let's talk about the World Series with Gregg Murphy. First of all, Greg, how have you been?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. Thanks for asking. Okay. Now, as we all know, we get into very simple things when it comes to media coverage of anything. So now the simple thing is, are the Dodgers ruining baseball? So we'll start with simple, and then we'll actually then break the game down. But we'll follow along with I mean, because you and I both know there aren't a lot of chops out there anymore, right? And that's one of them. But are they ruining baseball?
You know, it's funny. I've heard that argument, and I've heard that. I think the Dodgers are doing what most teams wish they could do, and a lot of teams are trying to do, including the Philadelphia Phillies, and that's just put the best amount of players, the best talent on the field all at once. And the Dodgers have big pockets, and that certainly does help. But at the end of the day, they're also guys that go out and get the job done, and they're talented players, but they go out and in big moments they're able to perform and they get the job done. So, Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout were together, and the Angels didn't even make the postseason. You got to go out put the right group of guys together, and then go out and play well at the biggest moments. And they've just been able to do that over the last couple of years.
Exactly. Remember, what's really been a big plus for the Dodgers in the postseason is their starting pitching has flourished, which has then minimized a weakness, which is their bullpen. And I think that's been the big part of this, because the Dodgers starting pitching has been out there. The bullpen has been less of a factor, and everybody knows that the Dodger bullpen can be a roller coaster.
Absolutely. And I think, we talked about this before the Phillies-Dodgers series, in that the Phillies were at a little bit of a disadvantage because of the 5-game series and the day offs that were in place during that series, that the Dodgers were not going to have to roll out that bullpen like they did during the regular season. And, we saw the results when the Phillies were in L.A. in September when they ended up clinching the division. They got into that bullpen 2 or 3 times during that series and won 2 of those games. But because of the way the series played out, they didn't have to do that in the postseason. And now, having rolled through the Brewers and not having to get into that bullpen again, that's the game plan for them. They will lose games if you can get into their bullpen and avoid those starting pitchers at the back end. I truly believe if it was a 7-game series with the Phillies, it would have been different because the Phillies were a little bit deeper than the Dodgers are in terms of that. So
yeah, exactly. What have you thought about Mookie Betts at shortstop? When Mookie Betts played as a kid against the State College Spikes, and when he did, I did the series. It was up in Lowell. He played second base, and they moved him from second base eventually to the outfield. What have you thought about Mookie Betts, who's a terrific athlete and a great glove? What have you thought about him at shortstop?
Well, I think you just said it. I mean, he just seems to be able to do anything you ask him to do out on a baseball field. It's really remarkable. He's one of those unique players that no matter what, he's a ball player, and he's able to go out and play a good second base and play a good shortstop and play a good outfield, or better than good, above average for sure. And you marvel at guys like that. I mean, I can compare it to Bryce Harper and his move from right field, where he was an outstanding right fielder, into first base, where he's nominated for the Gold Glove. I mean, some of these guys, they're just built different, and Mookie's certainly one of those guys. I would imagine if you asked him to catch, he would probably be able to figure that out as well. So I can't say I'm surprised at the level of play that he's shown at shortstop or anywhere else on the diamond.
Ohtani had maybe the single greatest game we've ever seen a player have in the sport.
Yeah.
I'm not going to proclaim him the greatest player of all time. I'd like to see more of a body of work before I do that. Plus, my timeline in life, I just miss seeing Ruth. Just kidding. But he actually, at the plate, was not having a good postseason. What did the Phillies do with him pitching-wise that really put him into what was a prolonged slump?
Yeah, it's a great question, and, I think the Phillies left-handers, first of all, I don't think any of the Phillies pitchers, left-handers specifically, shrunk from the moment. We had seen Matt Strahm rise to the occasion a couple of times against Shohei. Certainly the starters had done the same over the course of the last 2 seasons. And I think they just have a real good plan. They're not afraid to pitch inside. They're not afraid to, stay in the zone and pound the zone. But if you make a mistake to Shohei Ohtani, he's generally going to take advantage of that, and that's what the great players do. The Phillies pitchers throughout that course of the series just did not give in and did not make a mistake to him, or maybe made one, I think, in the entire series. And, that's not going to happen all the time. He's going to get his because he is that great of a player. But the Phils were really able to do it, really against the top of that lineup in general. They did a really nice job against that Dodgers lineup. Neither team was scoring runs. It was all about the pitching. The Dodgers just able to scrape out 1 or 2 more than the Phils. So, but, yeah, it was impressive, the job they did against Shohei Ohtani, because you're not going to keep a guy like that down for too long.
Greg, give me a player on the Dodgers roster, because you watch the game so closely. That's one of those under-the-radar guys, but he's a reason why they win.
Oh, well, I think they probably have a couple of those guys. But, I think we saw the difference that Will Smith makes in their lineup.
Oh,
he had been injured, and then he comes back. And just being in there, just kind of lengthening that lineup for them. And he had a couple of big swings of the bat as well. He's a guy that I don't want to say fear, but he's a guy that can hurt you and doesn't get talked about as much as some of the other guys. And then, of course, when you're talking postseason, I think you got to mention Kike Hernandez too, because he's a guy that just seems to do it when the lights are at its brightest. And he's a guy that has hurt the Phillies before, and he certainly hurt the Phillies in this series.
Okay, so now let's flip it over to the Jays. How interested are you to see rust versus energy of Bo Bichette being back for Toronto?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, we get a chance to see Bo Bichette a lot in the spring, and I know he's had his injury issues over the course of his career, but when he's healthy, he's a dynamic player, and, he's a guy that he's a big part of what the Blue Jays are trying to do. So, yeah, I'm excited to see these two teams play. I truly believe in my heart of hearts the two best teams in baseball played in that first series, Phillies and the Dodgers. But I had Toronto coming out of the American League, and I'm interested to see what this series holds because there's a ton of talent up and down the lineup in both of those lineups, and it should be a good series. I'm hopeful the Dodgers don't just roll over the Blue Jays. I'm really hoping the Blue Jays can put up a fight.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you talk about a Blue Jays team that actually lost the first two games of the American League Championship Series, then came back and finally beat Seattle. Yeah. They've got the first two games in Toronto this time through. And the rookie, Trey Yasevich, will be on the mound to start for Toronto tonight against Blake Snell. What is your thought on Yasevich, who obviously in the previous series was dynamic out of the gate in the postseason?
Well, he's got amazing stuff, and it looks like he's a guy that can rise to the occasion. At the moment, won't be too big for him, but he's never been on a stage like this before, and it is going to be a huge moment. So I think we'll learn a lot in the first inning or two, and watching him going out there and doing his thing and seeing if he can calm the nerves and keep the adrenaline in check, because that's the one thing that can derail a pitcher is that, that adrenaline starts to course through the body and you start to lose a little bit of your command. We know he's going to throw hard. We know, he's going to be triple digits kind of thing, but you also have to throw strikes or at least throw with command. And so I'll be interested to see it tonight. And I think he's going to be just fine, but I think he's got to prove it, that he can do it at this level, at this stage. And on the flip side, Blake Snell, we know can do it, and we have seen him do it on the biggest stage, and he's been as good as anybody in the postseason so far this year. He's been remarkable. So it'll be a great pitching matchup tonight, no doubt about
it. It's amazing what Snell can do when the manager lets him go 7 or 8 innings. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
I was going to say, and when Snell decides that he wants to go deep into a game, because I do think that's part of it. He's not a guy that has always fought through the 6th inning and taken the ball in the 7th, but I think he has shown over the last couple of weeks that, he can do it, and he can do it at a high level.
Your thoughts on, you mentioned talking about seeing guys in spring training a lot. Your thoughts on Vlad Guerrero as a hitter and apparently watching him now becoming a real leader?
Yeah, I'm a Vlad fan. I enjoy watching him play. I think for the most part, he plays the game the right way. I mean, he might not run out every ground ball, but he's a guy that plays with a lot of emotion, a lot of energy. So I like that, and I think he's a fantastic hitter, and he he'll fall into those spells where a lot of hitters do and start to chase a little bit, start to press if things aren't going well. You hit a couple of line drives right at people. You start to expand the zone. He'll do that from time to time, but he really seems to be locked in at the moment, and he is absolutely a guy that can carry a team. If he can stay hot, if he can be a guy that every time up is doing something or at least causing some havoc, I think he gives the Blue Jays a chance against this Dodgers team. I had the Dodgers winning it, but I think with a guy like Vlad, if he can stay hot, they can compete.
See, I look at him, and I think he gives them a puncher's chance. And
Yeah,
I think that's what you can ask for, is to have a guy go out there and give you a puncher's chance, and I think that's what Toronto needs. Is that what do you think of Toronto's? Okay, they picked up Bieber as the season went. It looks like he's helped. What have you thought about the Toronto pen to this point? Because we're talking about the Dodger pen. What about the Toronto pen?
Well, there's a couple of familiar faces in that Toronto pen, so I've been kind of keeping my eye on them. Look, I think every bullpen is a similar kind of organism, right? They all have guys that can throw hard. They all have guys that have had flashes of brilliance where they're just unhittable for a period of time. We saw that with Jeff Hoffman when he was with the Phillies, and then we saw moments where he really struggled and got hit and couldn't find the zone. So the bullpens they're really the X factor when it comes to baseball, in my opinion. You almost kind of know what to expect from your starters. You almost know what to expect from your offense. It's the bullpen, and bringing it back to the Phillies, it's what has been the Achilles heel of the Phillies for the last couple of years. So, there are a couple of guys in that pen, as I mentioned, Sir Anthony Dominguez being another that we know well, and we know how talented they are. We know they can get the job done. Now it's just a matter of going out and get the job done. I was riveted to the television watching Jeff Hoffman finish out Game 7, and he looked as dominant as I had ever seen him in that moment. But I've also seen the flip side of Jeff Hoffman. So you just got to hope, if you're the Blue Jays and the Blue Jays fan, that they get the Hoffman that they saw in Game 7.
Yeah, this will be the last part of this. But, Greg, I've felt for years, and you may disagree with this, but to me, I think every organization, I don't care if it's the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Mariners, whomever it happens to be, they're trying to find 3 or 4 guys to be in a bullpen where they're either going to have their career year or maybe their second best year, and they're just rolling the dice that it happens when they have them.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I you think back to the Atlanta Braves a few years back when they won the World Series. You can go as far back as like the '93 Phillies and years from a lot of guys, that never have those kinds of seasons again. Brad Lidge, perfect example, a terrific closer throughout the course of his career, terrific player, but never had a season like he had in 08, before or after. That's the nature of the game, right? I think that's why the folks that have been around the game a long time, yourself included, you understand that you can put a ton of talent out on the field. You can have high payroll. You can have your superstars. You can have all of it. But if you don't have a little bit of luck, if you don't stay healthy, if you don't have guys playing at the top level at the right time, you're not going to win. And that's just the fact. And that's what makes it so hard to get to the top of the mountaintop in baseball, is that you need all of that. And you need it for a sustained period of time in the month of October. And it can be very difficult. And the team that does get that is the team that's going to end up winning it.
Absolute pleasure. I really appreciate the time you gave us today in breaking down the World Series. Greg, you're always great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Great to talk to you guys, and enjoy it. Should be fun.
Should be fun. Gregg Murphy joining us to talk about the World Series. Once again, I'm going to outline a great suit moment for you that only he can do. He tells Doug Birdsong, hey, if Shikellamy is in the playoff, I won't be able to do the Bucknell game on November 1st.
Not what I said.
And he had to be informed that Bucknell is not playing on November 1st.
That's not what I said.
Yeah. Right. To quote Kurt Signetti, Google it. All right, coming back. We'll come back with more in a moment. Brought to you by Purdy Insurance here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.